First and foremost here, thanks to Coach Casey for joining us here. We got a pretty special guest. A lot of these guys actually know who you are. I talk about you all the time, your stories and stuff like that. So anyway, I'll get into this introductory here. I got a lot of notes and stuff, so it might look like I'm reading some script because I definitely am. I don't want to miss anything. This is a pretty big one. More people here. So I'm gonna kind of introduce our Zoom guest here and go over some stuff, the achievements and who he is, and then I'm gonna read something that I wrote today that I feel pretty strongly about. So hopefully I don't get too soppy, and Case doesn't hopefully want to do this again. I think it's like the 4th or 5th time he's done something for Mountain West, and a couple before I was born. Is that right?
That's right. And I knew your daddy before you were even born.
All right. All right. So anyway, Coach Casey, those of you guys don't know him, head coach at Oregon State University, probably his biggest, thing here, but he's off, 7 years at George Fox. It's a school right down the street, really good place. I think he played basketball there. He played as a player coach, a lot of cool things. Case is a 900 win guy. He's had over 900 wins in NCAA. National Coach of the Year 4 times. Coached at OSU from 1995 to 2018, and he finished with the Natty. Pretty good way to go out. He's also the 5th coach in NCAA history to win back-to-back titles, and that was in 06 and 07. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but that achievement was probably mostly unheard of, and a bunch of background that goes along with that. But anyway, I'm going to get into my spill here right now and kind of give you an idea of the way that I know that everyone feels about him, and including myself. So anyway, here we go. He wasn't there to make you feel good or be your friend. If you ever needed him, you bet your ass he was there for every one of us. He did, however, have a making you hate him. He tested you. He challenged you. He to see if he could put you on the field. He needed you to know if you were tough enough to be on that field. After a while, that hate turned into respect. Like I said above, he wasn't there to be your friend or make you feel good. He was there to turn you into a man. For those of you who listened in on the Zoom with Conforto Monday, one of the questions was, who were the biggest influences in your life? 1 was Dad, and 2 was Coach Casey. If you remember, he talked about baseball and playing in the big leagues when he was talking about how or why Coach Casey was so big in his life. He talked about his influence on life skills. I feel the exact same way. I forever have what would Casey do in the back of my mind when making decisions. My dad obviously is my ultimate hero, but being dad is different. I think if you're lucky, we get to be around one person in our lifetime like Coach Casey. He's one of a kind type person. Coach taught us how to win at first, how to carry ourselves. He talked about the way you walked on campus, making your bed, keeping your room clean, keeping your life clean, so that when it was time to play ball, the only thing that was on your mind was beating your opponent. He truly changed my life. I know for a fact all of those Beavers in the big leagues feel the same way. That's what I got. Coach, hopefully I didn't go over the top there, but I'm going to let you take the mic and do some talking, and then we'll dig into some questions.
Well, first of all, thanks, Cav. I didn't know you liked me, so that's just a really good way for me to start today. I went and recruited Cav, for all you guys that may not know this, when he was still in high school, and convinced him that he needed to come and start playing for Oregon State before he finished his high school career. And that's a pretty big challenge. When you're coaching, you might not think so, because what I looked at was a guy that had the ability to do it, in my opinion. And then when we got him here, the first day, he wanted to go home. I put him with this real mean guy, Matt Boyd, who's a left-handed pitcher in the big leagues, who might be the biggest, softest teddy bear ever. So I didn't know if Cav was gonna get through it, and obviously ended up being one hell of a baseball player. Hit over 300 in his career. one of the greatest moments, and we can talk about this later too, was taking Trevor Bauer off the right field wall and down at UCLA and making a heck of a lot of good plays. It I enjoyed coaching him, and now he's grown into the man he is. And it's just nice to be able to get on here and talk to you guys about what I think is an unbelievable opportunity, and that is to take some talent that you've been given and take it to a level of which nobody thinks you can take it. You know, it's easy to say that I play baseball. It's difficult to say I play baseball at a high level. And one of the things that I think that society cheats young kids out of, and you guys really should pay attention to this, is that being average in their mind is okay. You know, if you walk down the street and ask somebody how they're doing, they're going to say, good, everybody's good. I'm good, you're good, everybody's good. Well, if you really want to be something on the baseball field, or you really want to be something in life, you got to be willing to challenge yourself to be better than just good. And even though people want to make you feel good about that and tell you that average is good, it's not. You have a God-given ability within you, or you wouldn't be on this Zoom call, you wouldn't be at the academy, you wouldn't be trying to find a way to get yourself up to the highest level that you can become. So that part, don't let anybody cheat you out of that. Don't let anybody take away the fact that there's unimaginable potential that lies in each and every one of you. And you're the one that needs to figure out how to get it out, and you need somebody to help you. There's no doubt. So I'm happy to be on here tonight. It's an honor to be able to share some of my thoughts. It was an honor to be a coach. I was a head coach for 31 years. Like Cav says, there's a lot of days that I wish I'd have done some things better. There's a lot of days that I wish I'd have been a better man, a better coach. The one thing I do know for sure, there's never one day that I put the uniform on that I wasn't willing to fight with my players, to go to war with my players, and to do everything humanly possible to get that person, if it was a practice, to become a better player, a better person. And then the most important thing, have a bunch of individuals become a team, get together, get on the field, and look for a way to do something that a lot of people don't ever think you can do. When I went to Oregon State and started talking about going to regionals and nationals, and people thought I was crazy. And, you know, people that have high expectations of themselves and have high standards are rarely in common with the average person. If you want to be average, that's pretty easy to do. Just measure yourself with an average person, and you'll feel pretty good. So I'm looking forward to sharing some stuff with you guys. I know Cav's gonna have some questions for me. I'd answer any questions from anybody, and just appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. All right, first one here. We have a lot of kids aspiring to be student athletes. We talk about what that means, what time commitment is, what kind of person it takes to be a successful student athlete.
Well, first of all, you know, to be a student athlete, there's two pieces of that for a reason. One, you have to be a student. Two, you have to be an athlete, and those things are intertwined. Once in a while, you got to kind of motivate guys a little bit to do that, right, Cav? And
Yes.
you know, the thing about going to school and being a student athlete is the fact that even though it may seem that school is secondary because you love baseball so much, use baseball as the vehicle to get yourself an education. I'm telling you that thing is there for you. That thing is valuable. You may never work in the area of which you get your degree. You know, you might get a business degree and be an entrepreneur. You might get a engineering degree and be a coach. You might get a associate degree and be a teacher. But the experiences and the challenge that go along with getting an education and being a student athlete at the same time are difficult. And there's going to be a lot of people that want to fix that for you. You're going to make a lot of calls and say, hey, this is too tough. Hey, they want me to do this. They want me to study hall. They want me at weights. All those things, man, are just opportunities. What everybody wants you to feel like is that that's a sacrifice. Now, can you imagine someone trying to convince you that getting an education is a sacrifice? Or that you go to some country where you can't get an education, or getting out of bed and lifting weights is a sacrifice? It may be difficult, but it's not a sacrifice. It's an opportunity to get better. You go to a children's hospital and look at some kid laying in a bed that'd love to lift weights. Go someplace and watch somebody that doesn't have any legs and ask them if they'd like to run. So this challenge of being the student athlete is only a challenge as deep as you'll let it be a challenge. But what I would do is I'd be proud as hell to be a student athlete. I would embrace the challenge. I'd say, this is nothing. Wait till you see what I'm really going to do. And I would be proud to get an education. And it isn't easy, especially when you're playing a sport like baseball. We played 56 games in 13 weeks and went to the World Series. We had guys taking finals in the World Series. It isn't easy. There's no question. But nothing's too far if you want to get there. No doubt about it.
Good. I miss being in the locker room here and that stuff. Okay. Okay, I've watched every single one of these kids with us today either play or train around the facility. Putting the time as well as the work ethic is not necessarily an issue that we have around here. What I want you to look on is what you look for in a player other than his skill set, his talent, his ability. What is the body language, the on-field manner, hustle look like? There are a lot of talented players out there that to pick from. What separates the dudes from just good players?
Well, that's a good question, Cav. And I'll tell you that sometimes they don't become dudes till they show up. And so sometimes we as coaches got to make them dudes. And that goes back to what I was saying. Some guys may show up a little more advanced physically. Some guys may show up a little bit more advanced technically. I know you guys had Michael Conforto on. When he showed up in college, he was physical. I mean, he was physical. And you look at another guy show up and he may not have that ability. Tyler Smith was not a physical guy. And all of a sudden, towards the end of his career, he got physical and changed everything. So, when I'm looking for a guy that is enthused about the fact that he gets to play the great game of baseball. I'm looking for a guy that wants to climb mountains that people tell him he can't climb. I'm looking for a guy that wants to be a great teammate, make his teammates better, more important than himself, find a way to win, and realize that if you want to get to the next level, you create a standard where you're at, where people come and watch you play. You want to be professional, you got to have scouts in the stands, right? You want scouts in the stands, win. You can ask Cav. When we played games, it was packed. When we played games, scouts were everywhere. And the reason they were there was because of the players. They sure the hell didn't come to see me. And I can tell you one thing, you can make that environment whatever you decide you want it to be. And so I look for guys when I talk to their coach and coaches in the league. One of my favorite things to do was to call a guy that I knew had good knowledge of that league and say, hey, who's the 2 or 3 best players in the league? Hey, how do you like this guy? How does he play? The one thing that they would talk about, attitude. The 3 most important things about being a winner: attitude. That you can control. You can't control being 6'4" and 210 pounds going into college, because you might be 6 foot, 175 and not put together. And you can fix that at college, and you can fix it before you get to college. Some guys develop a little later physically, but the mental part, man, anybody can control that. And I'll go right to the top. I'm looking for game changers. Michael Jordan was a game changer to the sport of basketball. And I know that seems like just the craziest thing to say in the world, because he was so great. And I know you guys are so young, he's removed. Tiger Woods, game changer for the game of golf. But if you guys knew the amount of time that they put into that sport and how it became a passion, and they had a singleness of purpose. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school team his sophomore year, and he asked his coach why, and he said he wasn't a good free throw shooter. Here's the difference between being good and great. Michael Jordan went 10 years and didn't go to bed until he made 500 free throws every day. 500 that he made. A good player would have said, I want to shoot 500. He would have went to bed if he made 380. Now Michael Jordan, he's a game changer. And you can be a game changer at the college level. You can be a game changer at the high school level. You want to be a game changer? It starts with you. There is no doubt about it. There is no other place that anything will start where you're going to have success than right underneath your chest, right in your own wheelhouse. And so, you get to make the decision what you want to be. You get to make the decision how much time you want to put in it. I'm looking for guys that their coach says, this guy is enthused about being better. This guy will do whatever it takes to win a baseball game. This guy's a great person off the field. Guy comes from a place that looks after each other, looking for guys like that. Like I said, they're not always perfect. Hey, I had guys that came here and, man, we'd knock heads once in a while. Or I had a guy that maybe I had to get in line. We had guys that weren't physical. We got them physical. We had guys that didn't know what it meant to be selfish in a place where you got to be selfish sometimes, and that's the weight room in the cage, and then unselfish when you button up the uni and jump in that dugout with one another. So I'm looking for game changers.
Good. All right, so another one that kind of is along with the same lines here, you know, that sometimes it's tough to help these kids understand like what it looks like, you know, how coaches are out there. There's a bunch of talented players and they're looking for something to not like. They're looking for a reason to not like you. And you never know who's watching, like all those things. And the thing I always heard was those two things. You never know who's watching, and they're looking for a reason not to like you because there's so many talented players. You know, is that a statement?
Well, Cab, both those are accurate. Yeah, I tell you that there are a lot of people out there watching. There's no doubt. There's a lot of people out there looking for a reason not to like you. I was never one of those guys that was out there not to like you. I was there because I wanted to like someone. I wasn't even afraid to take a guy that someone said, you know, this kid is really wants to be good. This kid's got some talent. He just had a tough home life, or, you know, there's something about him that was rough. I'm okay with that. I always looking for a reason to like somebody as opposed, but I've talked to scouts that flat told me, you know, Case, I go out there and I eliminate guys. I tell you how they eliminate you. They watch you come in the dugout. They watch your reaction to a bat at bat. They watch how you communicate with your teammates. They watch what happens when something good happens or when something bad happens. So you got to be careful for that, man. How you represent yourself in the uniform means a lot. And the younger you are, the harder that is to understand. I would never expect a junior in college to not act the way we act at Oregon State. But if I went and saw him play as a junior in high school and he did something foolish, I might not like it. I might tell him, hey, you know what? I showed up, watched you play. Don't worry about striking out in that situation, man. You played well. You had a guy threw you a tough pitch. You had good at bats, but don't show yourself up. You know, don't make yourself look bad by compounding the problem and then maybe not going out and making a great defensive play. But that happens, guys. You want to go out there and kind of drag your ass around a little bit, kind of mope around a little bit, kind of be up and down with your at-bats or your pitching. Guys will fork you, or scouts will say, you know, I don't like the attitude. And sometimes that's unfair because I know that people do things like I've done many times with emotion or competitiveness that you wish you wouldn't have done. But man, if you play with energy, you can make a few mistakes. That's for sure.
Exactly what I was looking for. That's a good answer. All right. Okay, heading into your freshman fall, some show up as a dude, some become a dude, and some fold, like you were talking about earlier. What piece of advice would you give to a player heading into their freshman fall to help better prepare them for success?
Do not be afraid. Fear paralyzes the human spirit. Fear divides the mind. Fear creates a prison of its own. And I'm telling you that people fear things they shouldn't fear. Fear walking into a locker room with a bunch of great baseball players? Hell no, man. Show up bold. You got to learn the difference between activity and achievement, guys. Activity is running 4 laps. Achievement's breaking the 4-minute mile. Activity is shadow boxing. Achievement's knocking somebody's ass out. And when you show up, you don't show up for activity your freshman year. You show up to achieve. And you walk in there and you respect everybody there, but don't fear anybody there. They'll respect you more than they will if you walk in there weak. You know, if you do things weakly, you're going to have weak results. You show up with confidence, you show up with courage, you show up with some will, you show up with some presence, and you're going to make mistakes. You show up to try to outwork everybody, and then you'll find out you start working with them. But there's a lot of things that I always look for in freshmen, and one of them is that when bad things happen, they don't roll over. And if they do roll over, and usually it's because this journey you guys go through, you know, you're a little league guy and you're playing little league and something bad happens and somebody wants to fix that for you, or you don't make the team, well, we'll switch teams, or, you know, I don't want my son to fall down. I'll pick him up. You know, some of the struggles on the journey are what make the destination so great. And if you allow somebody or expect somebody to fix all the struggles on that journey, you're not going to have a very good destination. There's nothing I can tell you more important than when I see players go through tough times to become tough people. When I see guys calling their parents, if someone who plays for me doesn't call their parent in the first term and say, this is crazy, man, what he wants me to do is almost impossible. The expectation level is, I can't do it. There's nothing I do that pleases the guy, you know? And then you got to ask yourself, well, wait a minute. If he has those kinds of expectations about it, why would that be? He must think I'm pretty damn good. Well, if he thinks I'm that good, why can't I be that good? Well, it might be because nobody's there to pick you up and fix everything for you. That somebody's going to say, no, man, you're going to do this on your own. Go look in the mirror. You'll find the answer to a lot of your problems right there. That'll fix almost all your problems. Matter of fact, when you struggle, go look in the mirror. The guy standing there knows the answer. He knows the answer. And I'll tell you what, once when you come in as a freshman and you get, you know, some tough times, or you have this struggle with the coach, or the expectation levels are too high, pretty soon you start finding out that's pretty damn fun. That stuff's pretty good, man. I found out I've got some more in me, man. I found out what I really, really am. And then, you know what? For the rest of your life, man, you're going to know what it's like to share some unbelievable moments with other men in the locker room, and the camaraderie that's a lifetime deal. I just think, man, if you roll out the pink pillow and let everybody roll around in it for a while and have a good time and get your butt beat, those memories aren't very good. Hey, how was your college experience? Oh, it's great. We finished last 4 years in a row. You know, no, that ain't the way it goes, man. Guys get together and say we were warriors, man. We fought together. We learned together. We got on the bus together. I became a man with these guys. I became a baseball player with these guys. I see guys go to the big leagues. We played in the World Series. We played in the regional, whatever it may be. Man, it's allow yourself to understand it's either maintenance or mission. Maintenance is just maintaining what you got. Mission is creating a bold dream for yourself that you're willing to try to accomplish. And nothing drives engagement like a bold mission, man. Nothing.
That's awesome. I think we hit mentality pretty good right there. Let's move on to some hitting stuff here. I really like the way that we did things up in Corvallis. I had an approach, but it was never consistent until I got to Corvallis. Our approach was simple, but wasn't at the same time. We were detailed in simplicity, if that makes sense. We all bought into what you and the staff wanted us to do, and it made us successful as a team. And I feel like it made us successful as individuals as well when we were trying to work as a team. Do you mind talking about that approach that we had?
Yeah, you kind of cut in and out a little bit, but we're talking about hitting here a little bit, sounds like. And yeah, you know, I think that especially now, you know, analytics is out there, and I think a lot of that's really, really good. And then I think a lot of it can confuse you. I think there's some things structurally in hitting that need to happen. Cav's dad's one of the best I've ever known as far as understanding human movement and how the body works and how you need to be on time. But, you know, we really tried to hit from a point of strength. We tried to start balance. We tried to strike balance. We tried to have an approach that was a mentality mixed with having good fundamentals in the swing. I personally like the fact that every guy has a little bit of uniqueness to his own swing. Cav and Conforto had a different stance. Dylan Davis and Conforto had different types of swings. but the mentality and our belief system and our philosophy of what we were trying to do. And for us, we were trying to strike, like I said, from a point of strength and be as ballistic through the ball as we could in the middle of the field. And I think everything happens from that. A guy comes in and you're structurally sound at foot strike, you're going to pull the ball. It'll happen. If you come down at foot strike, you're structurally sound, you're balanced, you're in a position to strike, you're going to cover the plate as well. I liked diversity in how we approach things. Michael Conforto learned how to hit the ball the other way. I feel like we did a really good job with him at Oregon State. He pulled a lot of balls in the ground in high school, and he was big and strong. And, I think we worked on a lot of areas of covering the field when it comes to swinging the bat. For most guys, I'll tell you that you're probably not going to make a lot of money hitting home runs. If you think about guys that really hit a lot of home runs in the big leagues, and now they've changed ballparks and balls and everything else, so the ball does go out a lot more, but you're going to see a lot more people that are baseball players. If I was a high school kid, I would want to be a complete hitter. I would want to be able to use the whole field. I'd want to be able to have some pull side power. I'd also want to have some power the opposite way. I'd want to be able to drag. I'd want to be able to hit behind runners. I'd want to be able to handle the bat. But I need to get myself in a position, both physically and mentally, that I'm ready to strike. Physically and mentally, I'm ready to strike. I like guys that look to stay inside the baseball. And I know that concept there's so many different things. Take two hands to the ball, take the knob to the ball, whatever that is. I'm not really sure if there's one thing that creates a guy to actually have that approach where you strike the good part of the ball with a good part of the bat. But I do know it certainly isn't getting your hands and casting away from your body. That's for sure. It's staying together. It's staying connected. It's staying balanced, and it's staying on time. But I'll tell you what, I don't care how pretty your swing is. I don't care how many different analytic machines measuring things, bat speed, bat quickness, arc, and everything else. If you don't have the mentality to hit, you don't have the passion to hit, you aren't tough enough to hit on most occasions, relying on that talent isn't going to work. Because I'm telling you, there's guys on the mound that are going to come and try to get you. And, that 86, 87 in high school and seeing that 90, 91 once in a while, you go to a college baseball game now and you got 10 guys on the staff going 90 to 94 miles an hour. And then you got 5 guys going 93 to 96. It's just, people are stronger. They're throwing the ball harder. I like, my deal is always be ready to hit the guy's best fastball and make adjustments. We were very good at getting into hitters' counts. Thought that was really, really important. You talk to anybody when I'm hitting 2-0 or I'm hitting 0-2, I don't care what the stats tell you. We did a great job of getting, as a mentality and as a philosophy, getting into hitters' counts. And I love guys to understand where their strengths and weaknesses are, find out, admit what your weaknesses are, work on them. I was a big guy that liked you to take the portion of the plate that you like best. Tell me your favorite pitch. Fastball down and in, great. We're never going to swing at a fastball down and away when you're heading the count or it's even. Why would we do that? You're not doing anything with that pitch. Until you handle that pitch, that's a 2-strike pitch for you. Other than that, cut the plate in half. Take everything. You like the ball middle half in, take 60% and in and dominate that plate. Dominate that spot. And we'll work to get that outside pitch. If it's the inside pitch you have trouble, just the opposite. 2-0, I'm not looking for a pitch that I can't handle. I love to guess hit in hitters' counts. And that's a mentality. But repetition and hitting, if you don't ever go home and say, I took too many swings off the tee, or I took too many swings, then you're not going to be any good. Because you have to be repetitious in what you do, swinging the bat. I tell you what, Cap can tell you, I've never known a guy that spent more time in the cage that didn't become a better hitter. And I've seen a lot of guys that came to college that had a lot of credentials that didn't spend as much time, that didn't make a jump that the guys that did. That's for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so last question before I hand the mic over to you to do some closing stuff, and then maybe if they got some questions or whatever. So one thing my dad always brings up is how incredibly impossible it was to win not only that far west, but that far north. You didn't make an appearance or win one. You brought it back to Corvallis 3 times. I also remember talking about those California and Arizona Pac schools laughing at the idea of coming to play us. And this is obviously before my time, playing up in the Northwest. You know, side note before talk about this, I remember us, we took a lot of pride in like, a lot of us didn't wear sleeves. We never ever wore anything on our faces. And Arizona would roll in there with that face mask on, and they looked cold. And I mean, the series was over before Friday VP was even over. You know, what can you talk about how that played out? Like, I just remember you talking about, I don't know, the California schools not wanting to come up and play us. We had to go play them. And then, you know, just winning up that far west with the conditions.
Well, I you know, a couple things about that. I think that certainly people try to recruit and tell you it's a disadvantage if you go to a northern place. There's no question that the weather in Arizona is better baseball wise than it is in Utah, Oregon, Washington. But that's where you go back to that mentality, you know, and you really can't change the man until you change the mind. So what for some people think is cold weather is really just an opportunity to play the game. And I think that we use things for our advantage. And I think that we changed how we thought, and that we were able to use those, what people thought were disadvantages, to advantages, to impose our team will on our opponent's will. And, you know, you get a little tough when you're standing out there in the rain, and you get a little salty, and it's a little tougher on you. And then guys roll in and kind of think this is a difficult day, and we kind of laugh about that and think about this is our opportunity, man. And you know, you go play in Omaha, it's 95 degrees with 98% humidity. That ain't no fun either. So I just think it completely comes down to a mindset, a culture that's deeper than just the stadium and the uniform and the name. It's the men that are wearing the uniform. It's a culture that creates expectation levels through our value system. Those expectation beliefs, they create beliefs. Those beliefs create behavior. That behavior creates habits. That habit becomes your character. That character becomes your destiny. And I can just tell you right now, the culture at Oregon State goes right back to what I was talking about, knowing the difference between activity and achievement. That culture that makes your teammate as important or more important than you are. That culture that says, I stand on the shoulders of the guys that came before me. That culture that says, when a brave man takes a stand, the spines of others are stiffened. We did things that people didn't think we could do, not only because we became better baseball players through work. And if you don't routinely and consistently outwork your opponent, and that's individually or a team, you will never consistently or routinely win. You can say anything you want about what we did with the mind. I can also tell you we never got outworked. We never got outworked. And the efficiency in practice would go up when the intensity goes up. When the intensity goes up, then you start practicing at the level of which you play makes games fun. I always say the practices are for the coaches and the games are for the players. And what seemed to be work and what seemed to be challenges and what seemed to be sacrifices and what seemed to be bad weather and what seemed to be the impossible was just the ordinary after a while. What one thought was extraordinary was ordinary for us. Our standards were so high that we were not going to give in to weather. We weren't going to give in to good weather or bad weather. We weren't going to give in to good officials, bad officials. We weren't going to be distracted. We just put in too much work together, and it meant too much for us as a team. So, like I said, man, when you have leaders do three things, in my opinion. And I don't think anybody can coach at a high level if you're not a leader. And to be a leader, you have to be someone that is willing to take people places they've never been before. But leaders work, they dream, and they pray. And if you're not on your knees praying for the work it's going to take to accomplish the dream, then your dream ain't big enough. That's one thing I can tell you. And I can tell you that no program will be successful without leadership. No head coach will ever be a great leader until he empowers other leaders on the team. Leadership runs wild with one another, and everybody has the potential to be a leader. And what leaders do is they make you believe things that you never thought you could accomplish. And when your beliefs become so strong, you get your opponent to start believing them. We beat Stanford 13 straight times from 2009 to 2018. And it wasn't because we were way more talented, and I have all the respect in the world for their program, but we believed it so much that they believed it. When we went into their yard, we imposed our will on them. They believed they couldn't beat us, and we believed we couldn't be beat. So I can't tell you the power of courage. I can't tell you the power of having a dream. And don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't have dreams. Everything in history, every great thing in history that's been built has been built by people of possibility and people that dreamt it first and then acted on that dream. And that's what you do, man, when you go to college, man. You have a dream. People call them goals. I'm not a long-term goal guy. I'm a short-term goal guy that help you. I'm love it. Hey, Omaha, that's great. We're going to post it on our locker. I'm going to tell you how we're going to get there. We're going to get there practice by practice, day by day, hour by hour. And that's how you get there. Short-term goal, man. The next 2 days, we're going to dominate how we play defense. The next 2 days, we're going to dominate how we hit and run. And you can do that as an individual. The next 2 days, my goal is to take more swings than any guy at this academy. My goal is to square out more balls off the pitching machine on a breaking ball than I've ever done in my life. My goal is to get down 400 bunts over the next 3 days, whatever it is. And then guess what, man? You get to answer yourself. When you make a goal, you get to answer yourself. So I just think that athletics are the inspiration for me and for many, many people.
Okay, so before I just thought of something. I want you to talk about Max Gordon a little bit here in a second, but I want to share a story real quick. It's one of my favorites. You were talking about this at the beginning of this last question, and you talked about how challenging it would be, or how challenging it is up there. You know, when we used to do cuts and relays in the rain, I remember that, and Nick Rulli had enough time throwing already. But he comes in from right field and comes to throw this baseball to the plate, and it goes straight up in the air to Max Gordon in center field. He hops under it, calls ball, and then everyone's down on the ground laughing, and you were gone. Practice was just over. But anyway, Max Gordon, I want you to talk about him. That's kind of a story that always will forever stay with me, and I think for you too. I mean, he kind of overcame a lot.
Well, Cab, everybody. Yeah, I think every guy that ever played for me, and not every guy that ever played for me was a great player. Not every guy that played for me was a starter. Not every guy ended up being something that I thought he could be. But every player that you coach, you remember the things that inspire you, the things that you remember about them. And, you know, we got a player that walks on in our program who couldn't run, couldn't throw, and couldn't hit. And, but he had a tragedy losing his brother in a car accident. And Max wanted to be part of Oregon State. His dream was, he watched us play in the World Series in 06, 07, and his dream was to be an Oregon State baseball player. And when I heard his story, I wanted to give him the opportunity to fulfill his dream. And so we let him walk on in the fall, and he did exactly what I thought he'd do. He didn't hit, he didn't throw, he couldn't run. And but man, he was a guy that had something about him that I knew the players appreciated and liked. He was not only funny, but he was tenacious. He just wasn't very good. And I thought to myself, well, you know, we really can't keep this guy because we only keep 35 guys. But, you know, we had somebody then that may or may not have been recovering enough from an injury. Never know if somebody may have trouble with grades. So at Christmas time, he asked me if he made the team, and I said I couldn't give him that answer. And he came back a couple of days later, and I found out that he was living in a camper at the campground. And then if he didn't make the team, he was going home. And so, you know, I said, Max, you made the team. And this guy was our starting center fielder on our Pac-12 championship team that went to the College World Series. He still couldn't run, throw, or hit, but he had a huge, unbelievable impact on players around him. And when I say that with a little bit of humor, because he was a successful player. He had a great on-base percentage. He made some unbelievable catches, but people were inspired by him. He was an inspiration. He had a big leaguer first rounder on one side of him. He had a third rounder on the other side of him. He had all-stars all over the place. Almost every guy on that team was drafted position-wise other than Max. And Max was one of the guys that I could tell you had an impact on other players. And one of the things I always say is it's very hard to be a great player, because to be a great player, you have to make other players better. There's a lot of good players. There's not a lot of great players. Sometimes it's just how good you are. Sometimes you're really, really good, and you still don't have that ability within you. You know, when Darwin Barney was our shortstop, he was the guy that went on to win a Gold Glove. And in 06, his junior year, Joey Wong was a freshman, and Joey hit 284. And most of that was because of what Darwin made him feel, man. Darwin made him feel he belonged. Darwin made him feel like he was a guy. And so Max was somebody that was an inspiration to me. He was a guy that made me laugh. He was a guy that made me want to strangle him. He was a guy, you name it. But that guy showed up to play. That guy had an influence on players around him. That guy is what makes college baseball and walk-ons and opportunities worth talking about. He was a special guy. That was a special team. That was a special time. You know, we had the best recruiting class we ever had was before that, and they were the most difficult guys I ever coached. So, you know, I just think he is the epitome of the word when you say possible lives right next door to impossible. You just decide which door you want to take. And Max made what seemed to be impossible possible, took it beyond that, and became a guy that helped us win.
He had a bunch of big time hits too. I mean, he didn't hit, but when it was to hit, he definitely got hit.
No doubt. He would come up with a clutch hit. He would get hit. He would lay down a bunt. He would walk. Did anything that we needed him to do.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, if someone wants to unmute and ask a question, you got something, we'll close this thing up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Shoot away. Let's hear them.
Look, yeah, I'd love to have somebody ask a question.
Who's got the courage?
They're high school guys, Cav. They can't, you know.
There's a bunch of young guys on here.
You know what that's like. You remember what that's like.
Surprised Logan hasn't stroked it. There he is. There he is.
I knew that right as you said that.
Hey, man, I like the hair. I like it, man.
He put a hat on too.
Who's the best who's the best opposing pitcher that that your team's ever played against?
Oh, okay. Now I can put one right in your wheelhouse. So I'm gonna boast up Kevin Kais right here. So we went to UCLA and we faced Garrett Cole on Friday night and Trevor Bauer on Saturday, back to back. We were down 5-0 to Garrett Cole on Friday night, and we came back and beat his Fanny. And the next day, Kevin Kais hit a ball off the right field wall, and we beat Trevor Bauer 2-0, and he struck out 15 guys. Those two guys back to back were about as good as it gets. We faced a lot of great ones though. Mark Pryor was really, really good. We faced him. Faced a guy at LSU that was really, really good in the World Series in 2017. But Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer were pretty darn good. Good question.
Ostich threw a no-hitter that day too.
He sure did. He threw a no-hitter, and that made him a first-round pick. He was a sandwich pick, 34th pick in the country. And yeah, he threw no-hitter went straight up against. They had three 3 first rounders. The other guy was Plutko, who was a freshman that year. We faced him on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He was the one that rode them to that World Series, right? He was the Friday night guy that year, wasn't he? Was he late?
Yes, he was. Yep, that's when they had Berg as the closer.
Right. I got a question here in the chat. How important is the high school you attend?
Well, that's hard for me to answer because it depends on who the coach is, how they prioritize baseball. I would say if you're a baseball player and there's a big influence on baseball and they have a good program, they got, they're dedicated and committed to that. I think that's a good situation. I think if you're in a position where you had the opportunity to choose, obviously academics is, you can't go to college anymore without doing a good job academically, but, I would certainly think that picking a high school where you feel like there's a commitment to baseball and you want to become a baseball player would be pretty important. Now I know a lot of things are changing there too because of the opportunities, just like what you guys have there at the academy. That's when I first started coaching, that was unheard of for a kid to be able to go places and swing a bat, get ground balls, watch video, be around other players. See, that's the other thing, people don't realize the value of being around other players and how you learn from them. And like I said, I just can't imagine being able to say, hey, I'm going to go down and hit in the cage for an hour. That's pretty good stuff. So I think it could be important. And the most important thing about anything is yourself. So if you doubt yourself in anything you do, probably not going to get the results that you're looking for. But I would have to know all the circumstances, but I would certainly want to see someone go somewhere where they are committed to baseball if you want to be a baseball player.
Anybody else?
What's the funniest or best story you have about Cav?
About Cav? Well, I have a few about Cav. Like I told you, the first night he was at Oregon State, he wanted to go home, and so we had to go down and pick him up at the Holiday Inn. And like I said, I put him with that big mean Matt Boyd, who was they used to call Cav Bear, and so he was the cuddly bear. My daughter actually thought the world of him. They were close, but one of the funniest stories about Cav was trying to stretch a double into a triple in a regional game against Georgia. And he got about 3 feet short of third base when he got thrown out by a mile. And I had to laugh when I looked up and thought, it's a good thing he got a big hit and drove in a run there, because I would have kicked him right square in the tail had he got thrown out when nobody had scored. So I had some fun with that. Cav could hit in his sleep, man. He threw a couple balls a little bit high at first base every once in a while. We had to talk about that. And but he was one of the guys that the players enjoyed. That whole group was really special. So, but no, Cav falling down halfway to third against Georgia was something that I laughed about afterwards. That's for sure.
Yeah, that one's never gonna go away. Anybody else?
And no, it's still not Cav.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. We all know baseball is a mental game. What do you tell players that are going through slumps? Do you have kind of a routine to help guys that are having slumps? To obviously good players, but struggling.
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think that it depends on the player. I think obviously they call it a slump because of the fact that they don't ever say that you can't hit. They call it a slump because people go and they say, hey, coach, can you throw me some more BP? And, really in reality, most of that stuff is a mental situation, and that is the younger you are, like I said, the more difficult it is to handle, because most guys that come to college are really good baseball players. They've just not had a lot of failure. And their first time they're going through failure most of the time is in college. But it's very few times does anybody ever come in and say, I want to look at some film and see if I'm swinging the good pitches. I want to see if I'm on time. You know, because your swing isn't bad. You know, your swing doesn't change during a slump. If you look at a guy's swing, his swing's the same. It's just that he's not on time, or that he's swinging out of the zone, or that he's taking pitches he should be swinging at. And then you start thinking about what you're doing. The golf magnifies that. Man, you know, if you stand over a golf ball long enough, you can slice it any way you want, you know? So, and I can tell you about that one, but the more you think that things aren't going well, it just magnifies that, and just that thinking gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so does the amount of times that you don't get a hit. And then the answer to how true that is, if a guy dumps one over the first baseman's head and gets jammed, but he gets a hit, he feels good. Mentally, he feels good. That just tells you how much mental that is when you're not striking the ball. And everybody's been through that. And whether you want to call it a slump or you want to call it anything else, like I said, most people come and ask for more BP instead of sitting down and really seeing if there's something they're doing that has nothing to do with the swing itself. May have to do with pitch selection, may have to do with not being ready to hit a certain pitch, maybe that they're getting behind in the count, maybe that they're late getting started, maybe that they're early getting started. So, you know, I always try to know the guy real well. You know, every guy that I have coached went through a time where they didn't swing the bat well. Like Cav can talk about when Michael Conforto, who was first round draft pick at the end of the year, you know, that was an unbelievable thing. Every time you turned around, there was a general manager in the stands, and, you know, he wanted to do so well that, you know, he was kind of fighting that thing, trying. So I would just try to get the guy to relax. That's the first thing. I would try to find something that has nothing to do with him thinking, that has to do with the swing, and more about, let's look at what we're doing at the plate, you know? And now there's so much video, you can sit down with a guy and go, well, you know, you're really not going to hit that pitch. It's, you know, 18 inches off the plate and in the dirt. So, you know, those things. But you got to know the guy. Some guys, you know, are just worried about everything. Other guys are loose. You know, those guys in the outfield, we'll talk about that outfield with Max Gordon and Dylan Davis and Michael Conforto. Every single one of those guys had a different personality, and you could not coach Dylan Davis the way you could coach Max Gordon. So I just think it's really getting to know the player and trying to help them take the pressure off themselves.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
We got time for one more. Who's got one? All right, well, I guess that's going to be it.
Well, hey, I'm going to answer that question for him. And Muhammad Ali said, it's not the mountains in front of us that wear you out, it's the pebble in your shoes. And what that means, man, is it's not the big things, it's the little things that add up to big things. Do all the little things. Do the little things over and over and over, because little things become big things, good or bad. And enjoy it, man. This thing's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable, but you don't have a lot of enjoyment if you're not hitting, right? You don't have enjoyment if you're not winning, and that's why you work. That's why you pay the price. That's why you take criticism. That's why you get out of bed and lift weights. That's why you go there and you hit off the machine. You go there, you hit off the cage. You go there, you watch video. That's where you create habits that will become that character that'll ultimately be the results. And when they're good, you have fun, man. So enjoy it too. Enjoy it.
Well, that, you know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on here and doing this for these guys. And they hear me talk about you all the time, and for you to come on here and kind of say some of the things that you have, I think it's helped a bunch of them. You know, that means the world to me that you did this. Hopefully we get to see you out here soon, on here again sometime. And thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. Someday I'll get out there and I'll actually be there physically. I'll come in and spend a couple of days with Cav and watch you guys tear it up, man. Watch you guys hit and give you guys anything that I got. So thank you guys. The best, man. Spring's on us. So let's go have some fun.
See you guys.